Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're joining us today because, well, we've got a seriously fascinating piece of tech to examine. Today, we're taking a strictly analytical, absolutely hype-free look at the newly released Trump Mobile T1 phone. Look, there's been a whole lot of chatter surrounding this release, but in this Explainer, we're stripping all of that away. We're looking purely at the data, the hardware, and the market positioning. We're going to see exactly what this device actually offers to consumers, strictly by the numbers. All right, let's just dive right in.
Here's the roadmap for today's breakdown. First up, the Independence Day launch. Then, unpacking the hardware, followed by performance and market fit. After that, we'll look at the clean software experience, and finally, American design, global parts.
Starting right off with Section 1, the Independence Day launch. So the rollout for this phone was actually pretty carefully staggered. Initial shipments literally started reaching those very first customers around mid-May of 2025. Then in June, we got the formal announcement of both the phone and its wireless service. But the true target date? That was early July. You see, the rollout was explicitly designed to ramp up and get this device into consumers' hands right as the US celebrated its 250th Independence Day on July 4th. Now, as production ramped up, the purchasing model actually shifted a bit. Early adopters were able to lock in their spot with a $100 reservation deposit. But today, the device has moved to standard retail availability, and it's priced at $499 outright.
And then there's the monthly cost of the accompanying Trump Mobile wireless service, which is appropriately named the 47 plan. It sits at exactly $47.45 a month. But here is the absolute crucial point, and this is a big deal for consumer choice. You totally do not have to buy the wireless service to get the phone. You can buy the phone completely on its own, unlocked, and just take it straight to your preferred carrier.
All right, moving on to Section 2, unpacking the hardware. For a $499 device, the foundation here is honestly pretty solid. You're getting a big 6.78-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display, and it's got a smooth 120 Hz refresh rate. That basically means scrolling through your feeds is going to feel incredibly fluid. The battery? A hefty 5,000 milliamp hours, which should easily power you through a full day. Plus, alongside modern staples like USB-C and Face Unlock, they actually included a 3.5mm headphone jack. I mean, in today's market, that is practically a vintage luxury. Audiophiles are going to love that for sure.
But as we dig a little deeper, we hit our first real standout anomaly for this price bracket: 12 gigabytes of RAM. So why does that actually matter? Well, most phones in the $500 range usually offer around 8 gigs of RAM. Bumping it up to 12 drastically improves multitasking. It means you can have dozens of browser tabs open, flip between social media, your camera, and your maps, and the phone won't have to constantly reload those apps in the background. It just keeps everything super snappy.
And right on the heels of that is the second major selling point: 512 gigabytes of internal storage. Again, at this exact price point, you're usually looking at maybe 128 or 256 gigs. To pack 512 gigs right into the base model, that is incredibly aggressive pricing. Oh, and it also supports microSD expansion, meaning you can just pop in a card and add even more storage yourself. So what this creates is a very specific value proposition. Out-of-the-box space for massive photo, video, and app libraries without that premium price tag. Look, if you're the kind of user who never deletes a single photo, or you record a ton of 4K video, or maybe you download huge media libraries for long flights, this specific memory and storage combo gives the T1 a really massive edge over its immediate competitors.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, performance and market fit.
The phone is powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 7 Gen 3. And look, it easily handles web browsing, streaming, social media, productivity apps, and even moderate gaming. Now, is it the absolute fastest chip on the market? No way. It's not a premium, top-tier processor. But the 7 Gen 3 is actually famous for something else entirely: highly efficient power consumption. It doesn't overheat, it preserves your battery life, and it just chews through all those daily tasks without breaking a sweat.
When you place it into the broader smartphone ecosystem, its true peers are upper mid-range phones. We're talking about devices like the Google Pixel 9a, the Motorola Edge, and the Galaxy A56. It's not directly competing with $1,000-plus premium flagships running the Snapdragon 8 Elite or Apple's A-series chips. The T1 simply won't match those flagships for stuff like intensive on-device AI generation or professional 4K video rendering. But you know what? It isn't trying to. It's aiming to dominate the mid-range tier by offering literally double the storage of its immediate peers.
Let's transition to Section 4, the clean software experience.
So early reviewers have really praised the interface. It runs a clean, stock installation of Android 15, avoiding those heavy, clunky custom skins. It gives you that familiar, highly optimized Google layout. Now, it does come with a few pre-installed extras, like Truth Social and the Doctegrity telemedicine app, but the crucial takeaway here, especially for tech enthusiasts, is that these apps are totally removable. If you want a perfectly blank, stock Android slate, you are 100% free to uninstall them.
But that does lead us to a pretty critical unknown. What exactly is the timeline for future Android version upgrades and security patches? You see established players like Google and Samsung now guarantee up to 7 years of updates. Trump Mobile, on the other hand, hasn't yet publicly committed to a long-term software support schedule. For the sheer longevity of the device, this is definitely something consumers are going to need to keep a close eye on.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, American Design Global Parts.
It's genuinely fascinating to watch how the marketing language evolves for a device exactly like this. Initial promotional materials proudly stated made in the USA. However, the current marketing has been carefully adjusted to say American designed and assembled. And honestly, that's a huge distinction in the tech world. It reflects the company aligning its marketing with the actual literal realities of building consumer electronics today.
That language shift makes total sense because building electronics in 2025 absolutely requires a standard global supply chain. Yes, the final assembly of the T1 definitely happens right here in the US, but the internal components, like those AMOLED displays, the Qualcomm processors, and the memory chips we talked about earlier, those are sourced globally from international suppliers, including facilities in China. And to be fair, this isn't unique to the T1. It's the exact same component network used by Apple, Google, and Samsung. Independent teardowns from tech outlets like The Verge, Tom's Guide, and iFixit have all confirmed this. The assembly is domestic, absolutely, but the parts are undeniably global.
Which brings us to our final thought. The T1 isn't just some gimmick. With 12 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage for $499, it's a legitimately aggressive mid-range competitor. So the big question is this. As politically branded tech emerges with highly competitive specs, how will it ultimately reshape consumer choices in the smartphone market? Are consumers going to cross political lines for a genuinely good hardware deal, or will our devices become just as polarized as the electorate? Thank you so much for joining me for this impartial breakdown today. I highly encourage you to keep exploring this fascinating new market trend. Until next time, keep learning.